So let's just say you've had enough of California. You're tired of the high taxes, unaffordable homes, and you just want a good quality of life. Well, let's talk about it. Hey guys, this is Yosef Addy, your South Bay real estate expert, and I'd like to talk a little bit today about selling and relocating out of the South Bay. Now, I know what you're thinking, why the heck would anybody ever want to leave here? We have great weather, amazing beaches, it's close to LAX and the greater Los Angeles area, and on top of all that, the South Bay is a relatively safe place to be. Now, this question actually comes up a lot with home sellers around here because of the high cost of real estate, and there are many reasons why people would have to leave the South Bay, and most of them usually revolve around some type of life event like a job relocation or change of income or divorce or downsizing, and usually they're just looking for something more affordable. Or maybe it's the other way around and perhaps you're expecting another child and you're upsizing with a growing family and you need more space. But here in the South Bay, perhaps 5 bedrooms, 3,000 square feet or whatever is just not possible in your budget. So whatever your situation is, and I hear this dilemma a lot with sellers around here who perhaps don't want to leave, the question is, where else should you consider that's not too far away where you can still enjoy a good quality of life? So I created a list of 12 places I would consider moving to if I had to leave the South Bay. And there were mainly 4 factors I considered when I made this list. Number 1 is the weather, like how similar will it be? And number 2 is proximity to a beach. Like, is there easy beach access or is it at least a short drive away? Number 3 is safety for raising a family. And number 4 is quality of life, things like good school district, reasonable transportation, medical services, etc. And this is obviously very important, especially when you're looking internationally. And here's the thing, if you know exactly where you want to go, like if you have family in Washington State or you're trying to be closer to your grandkids in Idaho, then obviously it makes sense to put those places on the top of your list. But what if you had no idea where to necessarily go and we're considering all your options? Well, I thought about it long and hard myself, so I'd like to share with you my top 12 destinations I'd be considering if I had to sell my South Bay home and go elsewhere. So out of my 12 picks, the first 5 I'm going to talk about today are here in Southern California. Now, if I was downsizing in the South Bay and moving elsewhere but still wanted to be close by, number 1 on my list would be San Pedro. Obviously, San Pedro is still technically in the South Bay, albeit on the outskirts, but it's one of the most affordable in the region without having to move too far away. In fact, Redondo Beach and San Pedro have a lot of similarities, like they both have a fish market, there's lots of options for seafood lovers, there's several parks in the South Bay, like Redondo Beach offers wide, stunning coastal views for their parks, but that's also the case as well in San Pedro, like Point Fermin and Angel's Gates in San Pedro are 2 great parks to live nearby if you have a family. So if you have young children, that would be ideal. I'd like you to check out this 3-bedroom house in San Pedro that's only $600,000. So something similar like that in West or South Torrance, for example, would be at least $900,000. In Redondo Beach, you're probably looking at a minimum of $1.2 million or more. So San Pedro is definitely an option if you're trying to stay in the South Bay and you're trying to be at a more affordable price point. Okay, so the next area I'd be considering if I was selling my South Bay home and still wanted to be close by would be my number 2 pick, which is Long Beach. Now, some people consider Long Beach to be part of the South Bay and others don't, and that's perfectly fine. According to the South Bay Association Realtors, however, and if you're looking at the Thomas Guide maps, Long Beach is not technically part of the South Bay. But to be honest with you, Long Beach stands alone in its own right, has a large population, has Cal State University, some neighborhoods like Belmont Shore and Pine Avenue, you have some of the best restaurants and retail shops there. So hopefully you won't miss Redondo, Hermosa, or Manhattan too much. And homes are much more affordable there, about 20 to 40% less depending on the area. And if you're a dog lover, one great thing is there's Rosie's Beach, which is the only off-leash, dog-friendly beach in all of LA County. You have the aquarium, all the museums, so there's lots to see and do. I'd like you to check out this 3-bedroom single-family home in Long Beach that's only $700,000. That's an option if you're looking to relocate out of the South Bay, but you still want to be somewhat local. So let's say you still want to be in a nice beach town and you're selling your South Bay home and you're looking for a little bit more peace and quiet, but you want to stay in Southern California. So if that's the case, my number 3 pick would be Oxnard in Ventura County. Now in Oxnard, you're not too far away from the ocean, so you don't lose all that benefit of that cool coastal breeze and nice weather. Oxnard's only about an hour to an hour and a half away from the South Bay, depending on traffic, and it's definitely going to be a lot quieter than Long Beach or even San Pedro for that matter. And so if I was looking to stay in Southern California, I'd much rather live in, say, Oxnard or somewhere in Ventura County rather than Santa Clarita or Palmdale, but that's just my personal opinion. Because I've been spoiled by the weather here in the South Bay, and Oxnard, you still have the Silver Strand Beach as well as the Oxnard Beach Park, which are both beautiful with easy parking, lots of sand. You can enjoy a beach day with the family. So compared to the South Bay, Oxnard is relatively affordable. It's still a beach town, and if you had to leave this area, Oxnard would be definitely on my top of my list. For example, I'd like you to check out this really nice 3-bedroom single-family home that you can get in Oxnard for around $700,000. Another place to consider if you're looking to relocate and downsize out of the South Bay, and my number 4 pick would be Oceanside. Now, Oceanside is further south, close to San Diego, but it has a vibrant beach lifestyle with lots of activities like surfing, beach volleyball, snorkeling, and plenty of related water sports. Or if you just want to enjoy the beach and go swimming or sunbathing, you have lots of options there, more so than I would say with Oxnard. And there's a local charm to Oceanside like you get in some of the South Bay beach cities. And again, being a coastal town, you still get that great weather. You're not ridiculously far away like some other options we'll talk about later. Oceanside is roughly a 2-hour drive from the South Bay. So if you're downsizing and relocating, I'd strongly encourage you to consider Oceanside. For example, check out this really well-maintained 3-bedroom home, less than a mile from the beach for only $700,000. Now this pick is going to be a little different than the other ones we talked about because it's not a coastal town, but if I was leaving the South Bay and maybe looking for something a little bit different and still wanted to be in Southern California, my number 5 pick would be Temecula. And I know what you're thinking, what the heck does Temecula have in common with the South Bay? It's further away, that's for sure, about 2.5 or 3-hour drive, and you definitely lose that beach access and ocean breeze, but there are a lot of upsides to Temecula. When I'm personally considering buying real property, either for myself to live in or for an investment, the scarcity of the land is something that's important to consider if you want long-term appreciation. And the one way to tell how scarce a piece of land is, if you notice a lot of new construction in the area, especially for single-family homes. So if that's the case, then chances are homes are still relatively affordable over there because home builders aren't usually interested in buying a bunch of lots at $1 million a piece and developing them, but rather they make their money on providing a beautiful home that's newly built for an affordable price. So having said that, obviously being close to a beach or other desirable places that are here in the South Bay, where land is often over $1 million on its own, the land is much more rare and therefore valuable, and so it appreciates more over time. Now, with Temecula, you still have a lot of undeveloped land with new construction, and land scarcity isn't really there, at least not yet. But let me tell you why I would personally prefer to go there, and why I feel like you're going to get better appreciation over a long period of time in Temecula versus other places like Santa Clarita or Palmdale or Riverside, which also still have lots of undeveloped land and new construction. And that's because Temecula has a thriving destination for wine lovers and entrepreneurs, especially lately in the past few years. It's become much more built up and developed with award-winning wineries, great hotel accommodations, almost rivaling like Sonoma Valley, and maybe even one day could compete with Napa Valley, both of which obviously come at much higher price points up in Northern California. So in Temecula, being close proximity to some of these wineries, and as the land gets more valuable, that could pay off more over time compared to other parts of California that also have lots of new construction. I'd like you to check out this lovely 3-bedroom home in Temecula for only $500,000. Also, I'd like to point out, unlike rolling hills in the South Bay, getting a horse property in Temecula would be vastly less expensive. I'd like you to also check out this property that's right around $1 million. So, like some of the homes you may have seen here in Rolling Hills or Palos Verdes, where you have lots of acreage and horse properties with livestock, etc., you could literally get a similar property like that in Temecula for a third or a quarter of the price. Now, Temecula isn't super close to the beach with about a 30 to 45 minute drive depending on traffic, but it's still a lot closer than other places like Palmdale or Riverside that are an hour away from a beach or more. So if you love horses, you love wine, maybe you're looking for a more country way of living and you don't mind slightly higher temperatures and you need to sell your South Bay home, I'd strongly consider Temecula. Alright, so this is the part of the list where we start to get a little bit more adventurous, and my next 4 picks are going to be outside of California. So let's just say you've had enough of California. You're tired of the high taxes, unaffordable homes, and you just want a good quality of life. Well, let's talk about it. The first place I'd be looking at personally, outside of California, and my number 6 pick would be Hawaii. Now, my wife and I got married in Waikiki Beach on Oahu, and it's definitely not affordable over there because it's so built up. And obviously, there's parts of Oahu or Maui that are very expensive, but there are other neighborhoods a little bit further away from all the touristy hotspots that are definitely more affordable. And to be honest with you, you can probably find an affordable home on any of the Hawaiian Islands depending on your budget, but I'd like to point you first to the Big Island. And that is because the Big Island is known for its diverse of landscapes, active volcanoes, lush rainforests, stunning beaches, and most of all, affordable housing. So depending on your budget, maybe you can afford a property in Oahu or maybe Maui or whatever, but if you're looking for the most affordable homes, they seem to be on the Big Island in particular. And like we spoke about earlier with land scarcity, land in Hawaii is only going to go up and up as it becomes harder and harder to come by when you have more people retiring and relocating there. So the Big Island has a slower pace of life and is just a great place to look if you're looking to retire, maybe work remotely, possibly have Airbnb property you could use later. So it's a great option as far as investments, and you're still in the United States. And we'll talk about some international locations later, but for now, Hawaii would be on the top of my list if I was definitely selling my South Bay home and looking to get out of California. Like, check out this 4-bedroom single-family home on a fairly large lot on the east side of the Big Island for under $550,000. Okay, so let's say you're downsizing and you're selling your South Bay home, but you don't want to wake up one day and realize you're stuck on an island in the middle of the ocean, and you still want to be in the United States mainland and relatively close to a major metropolitan area. And so my suggestion to you and my number 7 pick would be to look to Arizona. And in particular, I'd give Sedona and Prescott some serious consideration. Now, the reason is because someone that's leaving Southern California and going to most other parts of Arizona are in for a big shock on the weather. Take it from me, when I was much younger, I actually lived in Scottsdale, Arizona for 2 years, which is close to major metro areas like Phoenix. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a wonderful place to live, and when I was a kid, it was fairly easy for me to adjust to the weather and just jump in a pool every day, since every single home there practically has a pool. But for someone who's used to living in the South Bay, the 120-degree dry summers might be a little bit much. So that's the reason I'd be looking to Sedona or Prescott, because you have higher elevations which make for a much more milder weather. And if you're going to get that extreme heat in the summertime, you're not going to experience it there. But you're still going to be surrounded by gorgeous landscapes, especially in Sedona. There's tons of outdoor activities such as hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing, and Jeep tours, as well as spiritual and wellness retreats. So whether you're an adventure seeker or a nature lover, Sedona has lots of things to offer. And because it's low city light output, Sedona is an excellent place for stargazing or just enjoying a quieter and more comfortable way of life. For example, I'd like you to check out this lovely home in Sedona located in a resort-style community that has a large pool, spa, etc. nestled in like a really nice red rock landscape for only $700,000. So another place to consider if you're selling your South Bay home, and my number 8 pick is Inglewood. No, I'm not talking about the Inglewood here in Cali that Snoop Dogg made famous. I'm talking about Inglewood, Florida, where Inglewood basically starts with the letter E. So in Inglewood, Florida, it's a former small fisherman's town right on the beach that's recently been discovered by a lot of families that are looking to relocate after the pandemic. And there are some really great properties over there with new construction that are not only beautiful but very affordable. Also in Inglewood, Florida is one of the only places in the state that you can still buy a house right on the water and dock your boat for under $1 million. And if you love going to the beach, there are several uncrowded beaches with great facilities. And of course, since it's an old fisherman's town, the fishing is obviously great, and they have some really nice golf courses. For example, I'd like you to check out this new construction single-family property with 3 bedrooms and a gorgeous community with pools, etc., all under $450,000. I mean, that's just a ton of value if you ask me compared to what you get here in the South Bay. So overall, if I had to sell my South Bay home but still wanted to be close to beaches, but without all the crowds and maybe a slower pace of life, raise a family, I'd probably put Inglewood on the top of my list. And also check out Daytona Beach in Florida, which has a little bit more action and slightly higher prices, or Deerfield Beach, also in Florida, another great beach town with awesome lifestyle and affordable living. So my number 9 pick for leaving the South Bay would be Vegas. Now, a lot of Southern California residents have fond memories of vacationing to Las Vegas and then coming home to return their regular way of life. But what if you just sold your South Bay home and stayed there? How would that work out? Well, for some people, it's great because it has much lower taxes, less regulation, lower cost of living, etc. And it's debatable whether Las Vegas would make a better investment in terms of long-term appreciation compared to other areas I've highlighted on my list. And that's because of all the new construction. But with all those new homes, also brings lots of options for people looking to get a good quality home for a reasonable price, compared to the older homes that need much more work here in the South Bay. Some people don't mind a 5-hour drive, and some people do, but with construction finally starting later this year on a high-speed rail line that's going to connect Los Angeles to Las Vegas, maybe one day a 2-hour high-speed commute wouldn't be out of the question. That's obviously going to be a while out, but we have the new Torrance Transit Center that's recently been built, had its grand opening on Crenshaw Boulevard, and with a proposed Metro C line that could come in the future to connect it all, you never know. Moving to Vegas and visiting your family and friends in the South Bay perhaps might become a lot easier in the next 5 or 10 years, once it all pans out. So a popular suburb in Las Vegas that I like right now that a lot of Southern California people are considering when they relocate is Summerlin. So check out this lovely 3-bedroom home in Summerlin for only $590,000. So there's lots of value offered for your money, even in the nicer parts of Las Vegas. Okay, so if I'm considering selling my South Bay home and going somewhere new that's not too far away from the United States, I'd give strong consideration to my number 10 pick, which is the Bahamas. And more specifically, the islands of Exuma or Eleuthera. Now, I know what you're thinking, Bahamas. Well, first of all, the official language there is English, so you won't have any problems communicating with anyone. And their Bahamian dollar is basically tied to the US dollar, so everyone there pretty much accepts US dollars for payments. The government is relatively stable and friendly, as are the people, and it's literally just a 34 or 40-minute hopper flight from Miami, Florida to the Bahamas. And the reason why I like Exuma and Eleuthera is that there are even more direct flights now from LAX and other US airports that don't require you to connect in Miami or Nassau. So travel is becoming easier and easier. And another thing I love about the islands of Exuma and Eleuthera is that they're not as built up yet as Nassau, and so you can buy a large oceanfront lot with white powder sand for, say, $300,000 or $400,000, or in some cases, depending on the quality of the beach, you can find lots for much less. I mean, you can't even compare that to the cost of land in Hermosa Beach or Manhattan Beach, where oceanfront lots are basically a minimum of $4 to $5 million. So going back to the idea of land scarcity and best places to invest for appreciation, I'd like you to check out this gorgeous quarter-acre of a lot in Eleuthera with beautiful powder soft sand, west-facing sunsets going for under $200,000. Just look at that water, how clear it is. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And yes, building a property in the Bahamas can be more expensive than the United States because you're generally importing building materials and appliances, and you have that transportation cost as things are shipped by boat. But the labor costs to build there are generally more affordable. And the Bahamian government has been reducing taxes and incentivizing more construction. So let's say if you had a budget of $400,000, you could build a very nice and decent home there that would have all the modern amenities that you've come to expect in the United States. Adding that to $200,000, you'd be in a total budget of $600,000 for oceanfront property, which is amazing. If you're up to the challenge of building your dream home right on the beach, that's a great option. And with it being so lucrative to operate Airbnbs over there, you have lots of options. The Bahamas and Exuma and Eleuthera in particular are a great option if you ask me. Another place I'd be considering if I had to sell my South Bay home and go somewhere else completely new, and my number 11 pick would be Belize. Belize is often considered a great place to retire. It can also be a fantastic option for young families that are looking to relocate with kids. You have the combination of a low cost of living, great weather, activities, and very friendly people, making it a good choice if you're looking to make that move over there with your family. Now, if you're thinking of moving to Belize with kids, you'll probably want to decide on the type of school you're looking to put them in before choosing a location to live. Many expatriates with families choose to live in areas like Ambergris Caye, which is generally safe and has some very prestigious private school options. And while they're not cheap, they're still much more reasonable than private schools here in California. And another alternative is actually just to use the public schools, which are generally considered to be of a very high standard, and that's because it's based on a curriculum that's very similar to the British education system. So Belize is obviously a very small country, but its population has a mixed history, which leads to a vibrant culture. You'll find a mix of Creole, Latino influences, as well as the remnants of the British systems and ideas from which Belize was formed when it was originally a British colony. And that's why there is so much English spoken there widely. So check out this property for $900,000. Now this features a 1,700 square foot newly constructed home with a modern pool that's oceanfront right on the sand, and it even has its own dock for your boat. I mean, how amazing is that? Try getting something like that in the South Bay or Malibu even without a dock for under $10 million. It's just not possible. So now let's say you're just ready for a complete change of scenery and want to immerse yourself in a whole new culture. And so my final and number 12 pick for relocating out of the South Bay would be Malta. Now, the island of Malta is in the Mediterranean off the southern coast of Italy, near Tunisia, and you have cultural influences there from the Mediterranean, Europe, North African cultures, and so you'll be exposed to a very unique blend of traditions and food. The languages spoken, of course, vary quite a bit, but English is one of the official languages, and so getting around should be relatively easy, while you and your family will still get to be exposed to and possibly pick up other languages and cultural traditions. Now, there's a lot of great architecture to see. You have ancient cities, lots of places to explore, and of course, let's not forget that living on an island like Malta will allow you to enjoy coastal living, beaches, and water-based activities that remind you of back home. So Malta has a high quality of life, a good healthcare system, good education, it's relatively safe, and it's just a great place to live if you're open to the idea of living abroad, somewhere completely different, but that would be easily doable for any American expatriate. So if you're selling your South Bay home and were looking to relocate but just weren't sure, what to consider, I hope you got some good ideas from my list. Whether it's still here in Southern California like Oceanside or Temecula, or perhaps in another state like Florida, or even in a completely different country like the Bahamas. There's lots of great options out there, and hey, maybe you just want to sell your house in Redondo Beach that's worth like $2 million now and get a luxury condo in Long Beach for less than $1 million, and that way you can retire nearby and still keep those personal and professional relationships with friends or doctors or what have you. Or perhaps you're more adventurous and ready to part ways with California completely and, give other parts of the country a chance. But I hope you found this list useful, and if there's any place that you think should have been on this list, please comment below. I'd love to know. And if you know anybody that's selling their South Bay home, especially if they're looking to downsize or get a more affordable home, maybe they're going through a divorce or retiring or whatever, but they have no clue where to go, please send them this video, and I would love to help them sell their existing home as well as guide them to their new one, because even if it's completely out of the area, I know a good local agent in every one of these markets. So let me know, and I'd love to help you start your new adventure. And please be sure to check me out on Instagram and TikTok, and please consider subscribing to my channel, where I'll be giving lots of great real estate advice, especially for sellers here in the South Bay. And if I can be of any service, please reach out to me, and I hope to talk to you soon.